Hi guys, this is David Ellis again, and I am with Amir Jahangiri again for part two of what we started in the last broadcast. And what we're going to be talking about today is something called spiritual branding. You know, like Nike and Reebok. Well, it would seem that in our exuberance and exhilaration to be part of a spiritual movement, we have developed spiritual brand names. And what Amir and I are going to be doing today is going to be dispelling these myths. We're going to be getting into the practices of different spiritual paths and how they affect the individual. And it doesn't matter whether you're from something basic as Catholicism even, right? It can still work for you in becoming an enlightened being, because the word enlightenment seems to have been squeezed down to only people who practice meditation and some sort of arcane discipline, okay? And some of these disciplines are very complicated, and a lot of people do not have the facility to grasp a lot of the concepts. So for instance, if I sat here and I spoke to you guys about the quaternary law, or the Kabbalah, it would take years to master it. But if I tell you, get down on your knees and pray every day and say, universe, God, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, I am really grateful for the light that you have given me. And I love thee with all thy heart, and I love all of your creation. If I gave you these practices, they become very, very simple. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be getting into the analysis of all of these different movements and how they impact, because there are Christian people that are more enlightened than spiritual masters. This is the truth. I've met them. I have met them, and they are very deep into their practice. And if you speak to them, you feel the difference. You feel the difference. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have Amir speak on spiritual branding and introduce himself. As I said to you before, Amir is quite the metaphysician, and he is very well read. Amir, just introduce yourself to the audience for those of them who haven't seen the first broadcast.
Of course, ladies and gentlemen, my warmest greetings. Thank you so much for your time. I'm very grateful that you're here. My name is Amir Jahangiri. My background is scientific. I'm an academic, but that's really my day job. My main passion is spirituality and exploring the more unknown aspects of the human being, the glorious unknown. And it's a great pleasure to be here with you. Mm-hmm. So thank you at the very beginning. It's an honor.
Excellent. So we're going to start off with a video, and I have to give trigger warnings here. The video is going to trigger people. Some of the stuff we say is probably going to trigger you, but as I have said to you before, if I am triggering you, please understand you are the gun owner and nobody is pulling your trigger. You are the gun owner. The responsibility is yours to put the gun away. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm probably going to share my screen. My screen is already shared. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take us out of focus for a moment. And Amir, are you with me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Excellent. Let's start this whole thing again.
Cleaning your car. Universe.
Watch this carefully.
Universe, where can I focus my energy right now? Folding your laundry. Okay, something else. Washing your dishes. Once again, something else. Cleaning your car. Universe. Universe,
okay, I just thought I'd just share this with y'all because he's looking for something more profound, clearly, and he didn't find it. But talking about people who are looking for something more profound as an answer to whatever their problems are, We watched a documentary on the last broadcast. I thought I'd bring back the documentary at a different point in time so that we can see what spiritual branding looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the next tab here, and I'm going to first of all increase this page, and let's play it from here.
This peaceful beach town, inhabitants take care of their bodies, and most importantly, their spiritual life. Yoga classes, meditation gardens, and the most recent craze, women's circles.
Hi, beauty. Hello. How are you? Hi. I'm Ellie. Nice to meet you. Pick a card, cacao. What's your name? Leah. Catherine. Nice to meet you.
They come to Leah in search of answers to their everyday struggles. This young woman is a self-proclaimed shaman, a recognized full-time profession here.
Good night. Be a sweet night.
At this stage, these women don't yet know each other.
It's exciting to have an opportunity to be together with girls and girlfriends where you're not necessarily out at a club or you're at a party, but you can be in a sincere space together.
It's becoming big and new, and I think it's amazing.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So we keep showing up.
It's so fun.
This evening, Leah is being accompanied by her friend, Catherine. Their clients have paid €30 each to attend this collective psychology session, which focuses on mysticism.
Welcome to a very sacred place. It is kind of like our duty to heal these generations, to up-level the planet.
Businesswomen, teachers, artists, aged anywhere between 20 and 50 years old. They come from all walks of life. But they're all in search of the same thing, inner peace. By freeing themselves of societal pressures and constraints, Leah is here to guide them.
Okay, Amir. This is spiritual branding. So the female shaman has branded a particular kind of collective psychology, right? Now, we've been seeing a lot of women's groups popping up all over the place. There is something to be said for them in terms of how they choose to approach the concepts of spirituality. However, from my personal experience, if something is elite and branded, chances are, and you're paying for it, chances are you may be getting ripped off in one way, shape, or form or another. Now, I'm looking at the practices and I understand the concepts. There is an article which I would love to link you guys. It's called The Techniques of Brainwashing. And I will be linking that article, and it shows you, if you've been to masterminds or retreats or whatever else, they have certain techniques that they use in common. Okay? But is it real spirituality? Amir, you want to jump in here?
Well, you see, I can see the attraction for such activities. It reminds me of Alcoholics Anonymous groups, where there is sort of a positive aspect to it, where people have the opportunity to vent. And there's also, we humans are social creatures. Mm-hmm. So again, finding people who strive for the same thing can also be positive and uplifting. Mm-hmm. So as far as getting a positive, pleasant experience, perhaps so. But what's being explored here, again, the settings for shamanic healing are incorrect. There's usually, as we spoke in the last session, too much, too fast. There's no personal investment other than the fees they pay. After class, they probably think they've been enlightened, but again, the teachings, what's being taught here, what's being learned here, what's being changed here. And I suspect very little. So other than the uplifting effect that this session would have on the people, maybe even a placebo effect. You know, they believe that it's going to be healing them and benefiting them, and the mind is a powerful thing. And they very well may feel a positive effect after the session. But again, as you say, there's money involved, there's a brand involved, and probably they've got a payment plan and a membership scheme. So yeah, these are all problematic, I think. So yeah, I believe the social gathering is a pleasant event. The most likely thing to it is an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. So that's the first impression I'm getting from this.
Okay, we're going to watch a little bit because you said a lot to unpack there, and we're going to be unpacking a lot of it in the next hour or so. So I'm going to just play a little bit more of this so that we see the reason why this lady is doing this, okay?
Use your breath as a tool to dust it out of your body. Control and surrender to the throne.
In this spirit of intimacy, the women share their innermost pains, a relief in a society which praises performance and rejects weakness.
You would never really imagine what each woman is going through. You know, some of these women are women that have had miscarriages or that just found out they're pregnant and aren't supported by their partners.
David, could you just go back 10 seconds? I want to point out the lady's
a relief
pupil.
in a society which...
Yep, I absolutely see it myself, actually. Good catch.
And rejects
so she's probably using belladonna.
I never really imagine what each woman is going through. Some of these women are women that have had miscarriages or that just found out they're pregnant and aren't supported by their partners or have been shut down continuously in their job just because they are a woman. Yeah, I need to be heard. Yeah, I need the opportunity to hear myself and remember my power.
This evening, Leah's message echoes throughout the room.
To me, pleasure for the sister is the best right now in your life.
Okay, we're good. We're good now. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to unpack so much here. Okay. I want to speak to the audience in a way that resonates with their personal experiences with being to retreats and such like. I'm assuming that if you go to retreats and, as the lady said, and you're trying to reclaim your power and you're trying to reclaim your some sort of awareness of yourself, and this is for healing purposes as well. There are a number of things which are problematic about spiritual branding and groups like these. The first thing is that the techniques of brainwashing are being implemented. I've been teaching hypnotherapy for the past 10 years for the International Association of Counselors and Therapists. There are a few techniques that are similar and always being utilized at these retreats. I will go through them. You enter the retreat and they try to foster a sense of community, meaning a banding together. Human beings are social animals. And so they get you wear name tags and people get to meet you and you get to meet people. And because it's within the container or the conclave of this is our thing that we've come to, you are invested in becoming a communal creature with them. Number two, there has to be emotional connection. So that's easy. The basic precept of hypnosis that I focus your attention around a singular point or purpose. Okay? And the singular point of purpose there is healing each other and supporting each other. Number 3, in order to focus your attention, there has to be group activity, which leads to group think and group vibration. Now, that could be a good thing because, honestly speaking, if you are doing a ritual and you are out of sync or tandem in terms of your energy with the people that you're doing the ritual with, then clearly the ritual lacks force and substance. However, I do believe that this is a mental manipulation a lot of the times when it is being done. So you sing together, you dance together. So over a period of days, you are in this escape from your natural reality. And in that escape, there's no negativity. Nothing is happening. How many of you have been to retreats and experienced post-retreat depression? When you have entered life once again? Well, I'm going to say, and we said it in the last show, if what you're doing is not working for you, you feel it.
Yes.
So, Amir, I'm going to let you jump in here.
Looking at the short clip that we just had a look at, watched together, the techniques implemented were incomplete. So there's many techniques. So if you remember the last session we had, we spoke about the group in the desert with the lady using the crystals also. Each one of these techniques on their own can be very powerful, but that's with the condition that they're used correctly. So the lady was using rattles and drums, so they're shamans that focus on rattles. But again, the beat was off. So again, looking at very famous and esteemed shaman, Michael Harner, he says it's got to be 4 to 7 hertz. That's 4 beats per second or 7 beats per second. And that has to go on for a period of time, a minimum of 15 minutes with total silence, where you allow the drum beat to ease your conscious mind, and that's when you go into that state of meditation, and that's when the journey happens. So a few minutes with singing over it with the wrong tempo, with the wrong hertz, the technique is incorrect. Yeah. Similar with that. Yes?
No. I'll wait until you finish, because you said something that's actually very interesting to me. Go ahead.
Okay, then there's the matter of the drum. Again, the drum is a percussion instrument, much more powerful. If you have the ability to use it, it still takes a length of time for you to slowly ease into that meditative state. And it requires it to be silent. Or if you look at the Native Americans, they've got very, very specific tones that they use in association with the drum. And these, it doesn't matter if you understand the language or not. So you don't have to speak Cherokee, for example, to listen to a Cherokee shaman and become entranced with what he's performing. So they're words of power, essentially, not some random lyric from some random source. So again, it's a mishmash of many techniques, and the mishmash is a bad blend, like a bad perfume that stinks at the beginning, stinks in the middle, and stinks days after. You know what I mean? It's not just that single pure tone that affects you and makes you drunk with ecstasy. So again, David, your expertise in hypnotism and mind control is much higher than me. But again, the lady has done something with her eyes, which, if she uses this sort of glance, focuses correctly on people, it basically puts them into a suggestible state, a weakened mental state. Again, belladonna, that was the first thing that came to mind. That's actually toxic, but in the Middle Ages in Europe, women would use this to seduce men, and it works. So larger pupils look more attractive, more drawing in. So there's a lot of techniques that are being used, as you said very, very correctly. Brainwashing. It's not even placebo, because placebo is the mind and the body healing itself. This is just an illusion of feeling well. So I wouldn't be surprised if after this they feel low. And by the way, that's the classic mechanism of addiction. So people feel low after, they miss that high they had during the session. So what's the problem? Let's pay another $50, $100, $30, whatever. Go back and feel that high again. And funny enough, many of these gatherings, they actually do use substances without people's knowledge. There's many examples of this throughout history, and especially in recent history, where the police and the army got involved, because these cults get so large, so huge, and so powerful, they pick up arms, they become a serious problem. So, you know, it's a tricky situation.
Okay, so let me just put my overlay here. There are a number of techniques which are being used. They're being used badly, but they're being counterbalanced through their bad use by the fact that these women really, truly want an answer. And the power of desire is being engaged. So you look, it's been a hell of a ride for me in this incarnation. I have been fortunate and blessed to have walked through many different paths, and I've seen, and I kid you not, Christian priests calling people up, slapping them on their back to spit into a bucket, to spit the devil out, right? And these people feeling fully cleansed after the power of wanting to be that way. It's the same as these miracle healings where they get people to walk out of wheelchairs. You can't walk out of the wheelchair if your mind accepts the idea that you can walk out of the wheelchair based on a false premise. It's temporary. You're going to go back to that wheelchair, but for now you can walk out of that wheelchair. Okay? But you always could. So these women, as an example, when you go into these cults and those retreats, what happens, right? Because I have been to several, and I don't go to retreats nowadays to get any spiritual enlightenment. I go to retreats to examine how good the hypnotic techniques are. I'll be very honest with you. I find them hilarious. I also find it hilarious. So one of the techniques that I have seen as of recently, especially in women's groups, the women who go to these kinds of groups are broken inside because of stuff that has happened. A lot of them are. So if you get a broken woman to come up in front of other broken women, you call that being vulnerable. That is being vulnerable. She is being vulnerable with you. But you know what else is happening? The women who are witnessing the vulnerability are more likely to be vulnerable themselves. Because the truth of the matter is, nobody wants to walk around with a closed heart. It is not your natural state. Everybody wants to open their heart. But you have to be careful what you're opening your heart for. A closed heart feels, if you can feel it, it feels like a state of not being in true connection with yourself and your body. Okay? But if you open your heart up to you, it may have been shut down by a man. Don't open it up to a woman. And I'll explain why that is. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. Because at the end of the day, man, woman, as long as it is in this form, it is still human. How about you open out your heart to something that is non-tangible, never born, never dying? I just quoted the Gita there, right? unborn and never dying. Open your heart up to the universe. See the creative intelligence. See the whole picture. Because if I call you up in a retreat and I say to you, open your heart to me, sister. Open up, open up. That person is not opening up their heart to the universe. That person is opening up their heart to the person who's directing them. Okay? There are two kinds of hypnosis that you have to be very careful with in these retreats. One is called shock induction. Shock induction works like this. It's a nervous system fail. Okay? Your brain controls your nervous system. If I shock your nervous system enough, you go into a state of unconsciousness. Okay? It could be temporary, but in that little space of time, I can absolutely suggest what I need you to do, what I need you to feel, what I need you to be like. Shock induction. I've seen that used several times. The second form of hypnosis that you have to be careful of is a kind of waking hypnosis, which we call autosuggestion. And autosuggestion can be used in many different ways. Some of these rituals and some of the retreats, they use autosuggestion and they use NLP techniques, neuro-linguistic programming. Let me break that word down for you because that's like a cliche word that everybody uses, neuro-linguistic program. Nerve, languaging, programming. Nervous system, languaging, programming. That's what it is. So if I get you to do leg extensions while kneeling on the floor and prostrating yourself, it is used effectively in religion. Kneel down, stand up, prostrate yourself. Effective. But please, when you're doing that, always think of the higher purpose, the creative intelligence, the force. Don't think of the people next to you. Think of what you perceive to be God, the universe. Expand your mind past where you are. And that is how I feel about that. We're going to get into other stuff, but I'm going to let Amir speak on this.
That's really interesting what you just said, the effect of the group and how that prostration should be for the all, the divine cosmos, the creator, whatever you want to name it. Let's just call it the divine. And it's interesting. Anybody seeking enlightenment in history has gone into caves, to the middle of the desert, somewhere up in the mountain where nobody else is. And then these techniques will be fruitful. So you're really going to get some results out of it in solitude. But again, in the group, as David suggested, you're not opening up to the right direction. You're, again, opening yourself up to influence from a very, let's say, imperfect being, another human who's got other motivations, let's say financial. And again, this whole thing that you feel high, they may suggest that you need this, you need to continue with this in order to get results. So it's like spiritual drug dealing. The mechanism and the effect is the same. I wouldn't be surprised if the brain's pleasure center is being stimulated.
It is.
So they would feel a sense of true ecstasy, thinking, oh my God, I've touched nirvana, while it's the same thing that cocaine would stimulate. Again, it's the same process, addiction, whether it's cocaine, whether it's gambling, or whether it's this kind of retreat. So a very known process is being exploited here, again, for financial reasons. So I think the key thing here is that kind of ceremony is a very private thing. Again, with shamanic healing or with any other ritual, there's no audiences. Audiences are not allowed. You're either part of the healing and ceremony or you're not welcome. And that's, again, now I just understood why the reason for that is, what the reason for that is, a negative influence of other energies. So again, if you're opening yourself up with another 10 or 12 people who have negative energy, you're soaking all of that in while you're honestly open. So it's like all of them go in and all of them leave with the same spiritually transmitted disease, STD. Yeah, it's like in the again Middle Ages in Europe, in the old bathhouses, the water was getting polluted, so everybody was catching bacterial infections. It got so bad they thought that bathing was evil and harmful for you, so they shut the whole thing down again. You see, so it's again. Thanks you, David. I'm learning so much. Things are clicking for the first time. Now I understand. Wow. Oh my goodness. That's the reason.
Yep.
Solitude has a good value, you know?
It does. Here's the other thing that I want to touch on. The lady said that these women have all had negative stuff happen to them and they want to regain their power. I want to talk about that because I've heard this word thrown around a lot. I want to talk to the audience in a way that we all can understand. You didn't lose your power. You didn't lose your power. You never lose your power. Your power is always right there.
Yes.
You don't need someone to tell you that your power is right there. Okay, some of us do need someone to tell us that our power is right there. I will concede the point. But what does that mean? Because here is the thing. If you're paying 30 euros, which is what these people were paying, and some people go up to 3,500 euros. And I want to take a strip off of the coaching community in a little while, but we're going to save that for a little bit later. But some people are up to 35 euros. Amir, 3,500, sorry. Amir, so when you say that you need to regain your power, power is within you. And so you go to a retreat or a gathering and you're looking for power in the company of others. Well, that's group power, okay? Could it be that you are actually conceding your power to the group in order to get some group collective power, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to armies and everything in the modern world, together we stand, divided we fall. When it comes to spirituality, it does not work that way, okay? Because as Amir just said to you, you're liable to catch an STD from someone. A spiritually transmitted disease. And I just want to say to you, if the person who has the STD is the person leading the group, oh boy, you're all going to catch it.
Yes.
So I went to a retreat 2 years ago in I believe it was British Columbia. The individual had a yurt outside and the whole shebang, right? And that individual had a lot of arrogance on board. Very elite, very arrogant, okay? And everybody who comes out of that training, they spent a lot of money to go to that training, believe that they have gone to a certain level that is above the level of everybody else. And that is what I mean. Because I'm going to let Amir jump in here, but the fact of the matter is what I wanted to say is that a lot of people who are spiritual, they decry, and a point was made in the last broadcast, very good point, the Abrahamic religions, the people who are going to church and so on. Be careful with that arrogance that you have. We're going to talk about that. Amir, you can jump in here.
Absolutely. Let's just look at what arrogance is. It is an imbalanced ego, an ego detached from reality. which is the nature of the system of domination and control, that hierarchical system. So that type of system has two properties. The members are motivated by two things: hunger and ego. Mm-hmm. Hunger for power, hunger for energy, hunger for money. So that hunger, and it's not a hunger like you eat a sandwich and you're satisfied. This is an everlasting hunger. The other is ego. So everybody that's one step above destroys everybody below. So it's like a self-perpetuating disease, infecting more and more people, harvesting energy towards the top of the pyramid.
Correct.
So you see, go ahead, please.
It's the exact definition of vampirism.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. Absolutely. Absolutely. Psychic vampirism. Let's talk about that, please. Because I think this subject is not spoken about enough.
Okay.
How does it happen? Let's in this conversation give our esteemed audience some indications of when it's happening. How could they identify it, and how can they protect themselves? Simple techniques. Again, my friends, knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the beginning of our conversation in this discussion. The ladies that are going there for healing, much of the time, a healer will give the person information that this is the state you're in right now. Mm-hmm. This is what's happening. This is the reason it is happening, or it has happened. And by the way, this is a simple solution. The whole thing clicks in their mind. They say, oh my God, I understand it now. And from that point onwards, they're on their journey to recovery automatically. So if that information isn't given, so the lady says, open up. Okay, open up. Now you've given up a lot of your energy. By the way, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to have nightmares. Your skin may react badly. Your digestive system will react badly. Mm-hmm. You're going to be recovering from being fed upon again. And also you've caught the disease. Again, let's go back to the example of that very arrogant practitioner. You've caught the disease of arrogance. It's a disease of the mind. You've been infected. Now you think you're better than everyone.
Correct.
And guess what? If you have any power, you're going to do the same to everybody else.
And here is the thing that I want to bring, because vampirism is manifested in different ways. I'll give you an example of a vampire in a retreat situation. Tell me about your trauma. Tell me your trauma. Go on, tell me your trauma, right? And so you tell the individual your trauma. The individual wants to know what your trauma is. Anything that is asymmetrical. Amir and I are having a conversation. I put in my part, he puts in his part, we put in each other's part, right? I am not saying to Amir, tell me your trauma, tell me your deepest trauma. You want to know why I'm not doing that? I'm not telling Amir either, like in the example, Amir, are you vaccinated? Really? I'm not going to be doing that. And I'll explain to you why. Because I choose not to be a psychic vampire. And I'll explain how this works in a very simple way. If I keep asking Amir to tell me, give me your pain, give me your trauma, what happens is there's an asymmetrical connection to Amir where he is vulnerable and I become more powerful because I now have your information. I know what your weakness is, you see. And because I know what your weakness is, I can tell you, Amir, you're smiling right now, you're laughing, it's because of your trauma. And this is the kinds of things that actually happen in these groups. I have seen it. I have witnesses. I've been around. I have seen these things happen over and over again. Okay. And so this asymmetrical bond is created between, and I say bond because it's a psychic leeching thing.
Yes.
So now Amir feels comfortable with me on his end because he's given me his trauma. He doesn't know what mine is, but he's given me his. And because the vulnerability, this is the person that I can talk to. I can't talk to my family, can't talk to my friends, but I can talk to David. And you see how this happens. This is something that actually is played out every day. Psychic vampirism, okay? And I wanted to show you an example, a living example. And how do you know that you are the victim of a psychic vampire? Because here are some indicators. You develop a codependency on that individual. A codependency on that individual means that if Amir came to my retreat and I got his vulnerability, then Amir feels compelled to pay me more money to come to my next retreat and the next one and the next one. And anything I sell to Amir, he's gonna pay me, right? Psychic vampirism. So now I'm leeching him of his essence, and now I'm leeching him of his finances. And I want to explain, and this is a very salient point. So if you don't listen to anything on this broadcast, listen to this part. Empowerment is transferring to an individual the ability to tell you to F off. Listen to what I just said. I'm going to repeat it. Empowerment is the ability to transfer something to an individual to make yourself no longer useful. Because that individual is independent and that individual can function as a fully functioning person. That's how you empower people. If people are following you all around the globe and keep paying you and paying whatever you want, then they are not empowered. Simple. Amir, I'll let you jump in.
I completely agree with the points you've made. And again, energy harvesting is done through emotional manipulation. So that would be the way in, so to speak. So you would see this typically in people with narcissistic personality disorder.
Yep.
Very commonly, they use psychic vampirism. And they feed indiscriminately. It's a compulsion again. So they're motivated by hunger and ego. So these are two signs of these people. Now, how to notice if you are being drained of your energy, the emotional reaction to the person. Does the person cause you pain with their words? They may alternatively give you little bursts of happiness and pleasure with their words. So it's evoking some sort of an emotional turbulence, which would correspond with the adrenal glands in the body activating. That activation of adrenaline, where it's maybe through sadness or anger, or how dare them, whatever. Some sort of a shock to the system. That's when your aura opens and they can connect to you, plug into you. So what David said, the mechanism, okay, give me your trauma. That's when they plug in a cord again, quote unquote, is attached. Once that cord is in, they have perpetual access to your energy. Now, removing the cord or cord cutting, again, one of those things that we can talk about in the future. It requires a very capable practitioner to actually do this, again, with the speaking, the consent of the person, the free will of the person is evoked. In the name of your free will, is it your choice to be free of this? They say yes. Then you can start applying different techniques to remove the cord from the person who's being vampirized and also from the vampire. And then there's a spiritual aspect of destroying the cord itself, that mechanism of feeding. And the person immediately feels a difference in the cord. Again, in the chakra system, a lot of the time it's the solar plexus, the center of your power. So whether it's just purely your life force they're taking, or your resources, financial or otherwise, your influence, your connections. It could go in many different ways. When the cord is cut, the person says, oh my God, I can feel the damn thing gone. Oh my God, I could feel it hurting me. So these are the same thing with different manifestations in the physical reality and different higher vibrations. So if you notice that the words or actions that someone does is illogical, causes you to go into mental anguish, feel sad, or suddenly feel happy, that sudden turbulence is opening up your aura so they can take their next meal.
There is something to be said about what you just said, because in the Middle Ages, and it still applies now, this is how demons possessed people. So I want to say something here for those of, and this is for another series, clearly, but I will allude to it. People became possessed because they despaired. They were in despair. Nothing possesses you. You have to let it in.
Bingo. Bingo.
You have to let it in. And not only do you have to let it in, you have to let it in because you feel that you have no choice. And once you have no choice, and that combination and that perfect cocktail of despair and desperation is what allows people to become possessed. And people possess people as well. Okay. Now, I wanted to touch on something else that you just said there, Amir. We discussed the concept of energy vampirism, and we also talked about narcissists. A lot of people seem to think that narcissists come with like big beards and they're muscular and they have like, I don't know, they gold chains and stuff like that, right? No, they can come in flowing white robes, be 95 pounds, okay? Totally feminine, and be wearing beads as well. Be very careful of that because it has many manifestations, and it's the manifestations that will always put you into trouble, okay?
Absolutely.
So there is that. I wanted to move on to the concept of spiritual branding. Okay, let's talk about some brands.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got people who are doing Reiki, but in Reiki there's the Usui tradition and the Takata tradition. Okay, that's branding. You got some people doing QBI and QHT and QBI, and what's the difference? And who knows, right?
Right.
You have people doing yoga, and the proliferation of yoga styles and systems is unbelievable. Okay, so you got forest yoga, you got naked yoga, you have no yoga with the dog, the pets. You got what else is there? You got vinyasa, you got flow yoga, and that's just hatha yoga alone. Hatha yoga being the physical postures and so on. And there are several other kinds of yoga forms out there. I need to ask you guys a question. Does it ever get confusing? I mean, like, I mean, like all of those little brand names. So I got this certificate from this yoga form. Or even in coaching, I'm gonna deal with the coaches separately, right? I got this little certificate from this particular, and you got this certificate from this particular master, and the masters are branding of themselves. I'm going to say something to you guys, okay? At the end of the day, last night at midnight, I look like I haven't slept because I haven't slept. I spoke to a lady in Dubai. She is going to be on these broadcasts. All right? Would you like to know what her coaching / spiritual technique is? Smiling. Very simple. Her coaching technique, and I am very impressed with that, because a lot of people believe that the best way to become enlightened is to go into these arcane, difficult to understand concepts, right? Where you cast the magister in geometrically perfect designs on the ground, and you must use the right materials, of course, all right? And then you prostrate yourself in a particular way, and then you have the incantations, and you got to learn Latin, and because if you don't know Latin, I mean, God, heaven forbid. And you got to learn some Aramaic on the side and some Hebrew, right? And only then can you show that you've done enough to deserve enlightenment. So my question is, why don't you pick up a whip and start beating yourself? Self-flagellation is a thing. If you wanted to show dedication, right? But a lot of you fall prey to intellectual masturbation. This kind of thing, if you are a student of esoterics and this is what you do, please, by all means, study the path. Study all forms of the path. As I said to you guys before, I put out an esoterics quiz, and I disseminated it among people who were esoterically inclined. They all failed the quiz. Would you like to know why? Because they had been reading and practicing for many, many years, and they didn't even know the definition of what it is that they were doing. So how many people who are listening to this broadcast right now who are in yoga studios know what the word yoga means? How many of you who are practicing the Kabbalah and say, oh, I studied the Kabbalah, do you know what that word means? How many of you know what the Akashic Records is, but you want an Akashic Record reading from Andrew Botsis? So I understand the concept of trying to chase that knowledge. I understand why. But if you are sincere from your heart, student of esoterics and esoteric philosophy, please follow that path. If you are, however, seeking enlightenment, that's two very different things. The two things can come together, right? But not in very many people do they overlap. Okay? So if you think that you're going to gain enlightenment by beating yourself into the ground, you are not going to get there. Keep it simple, stupid. The KISS principle.
Yes.
I'm going to let Amir jump in here.
Yes, I was just thinking about the smile approach. Going back to the brain and the division of the motor cortex. So it's interesting to know almost 50% of the brain controls the face and the larynx. So those muscles involved in speaking, 50%. 25% are the hands, which perform tasks like playing the piano, typing, complex movements of the hands and fingers. That's only a quarter. And then all the rest of the body is the rest of the 25%. So again, engaging the smile, you're engaging in a significant portion of the brain, because smiling involves many different muscles. So it's much more effective than many different yoga poses. It makes perfect scientific sense to engage the smile. And now if you combine that with, again, that correct thinking, that correct way of searching, or the correct way of meditation, looking within, purifying yourself. It's funny, you almost automatically smile when you achieve a level of purification. You begin smiling. It's the body's natural reaction. So that seems very, very interesting. I look forward to the broadcast that you have with the lady you spoke of.
Yes, her name is Rukia Khan, for those of you who would like to check her out. But her whole system is based around smiling. And can I tell you, there's something to be said for simplicity, and I want to go down that line right now. Okay.
Yes.
The individual who is in your house who is a Christian, and there are not too many people who are genuinely following the teachings of Christ, but those who are following the teachings of Christ to the letter are very proficient individuals. They don't realize it, but in their enthusiasm to follow the teachings of Christ, they have developed powers of their own, powers of compassion, powers of observation, right? Powers of discernment, okay? Which are the real powers that you need to develop. And so I think a lot of esoteric people look down on people who are religious. Let me tell you, they kept it simple. And what they're doing, for a lot of them, it works for them. It absolutely does. Now, the dogma, all dogma aside, that's neither here nor there, the practices work for them. Because as Amir said in the last broadcast, the Islamic tradition prays 5 times a day. How many times a day do you meditate? The Islamic tradition prays 5 times a day. They prostrate themselves. Those positions that they are in, they are yogic positions. Okay? And if you doubt me on that, you will, it's not only yogic positions, it's also the Buddhists use it as well, right? We'll use it in martial arts as well. These positions, we use them in martial arts. We use them in the Buddhist tradition. We use them in a lot of other traditions. So they're not accidental and they work. Keep it stupid, simple, or simple, stupid. Okay? So you don't have to, and a lot of people who practice them, they don't even know how it works, and it doesn't matter. We can get into that in another broadcast. Actually, you know what? I'll just go over it very simply. Okay?
Yes.
If you are in Zazen, which is the kneeling position, okay? If you are in Zazen, which is the kneeling position, you think, let me explain something to you. Any stress on your legs is an anabolic body reaction. Just so we're clear. So in the Japanese tradition, if you're doing martial arts and you're learning to meditate, you're not allowed to drop all the way down onto your heels, as an example. Okay? Right? Because it's teaching you a kind of internal fortitude. There is discomfort, and your body sees it, and your body relaxes into it. Very, very, very subtle, but very important lesson. I have been in Zazen for many, 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 many years. Okay? I didn't realize what it was doing to me over a period of years until I actually encountered real discomfort and I somehow knew how to deal with it. And in my case, it was because I was lifting weights. I had lifted something that was over my weight thing, and my weight tolerance, my muscles could handle it. At the time, my skeleton could not. Twisted spine at the bottom, trapped some nerves at the bottom of my back. I cannot explain to you the pain that is. The option was to get an operation. I was not about to let anybody cut open my back near my spine for anything. This is a real personal story from my background, right? They said, well, if you don't do this, you're going to spend the rest of your life in pain. They said that to me. A doctor said that to me. Would you like to know what I chose? I chose to take the pain. You want to know why I chose to take the pain? I chose to take the pain because I had faith in myself that I could master this thing. I had faith in myself that I could master this thing. So when you see me on these broadcasts, I want you to know there's a personal aspect that is going into these broadcasts as well. We've all had our trials and tribulations that we had to go over, but I could tell you what my experience was. My experience was that I took that pain. I had learned to understand that the more you resist in a painful situation, the more pain becomes apparent to you. You're giving it the power. You want to know how I got out of that situation? I'll tell you how I got out of that situation. It took me 6 months. It took me 6 months of very, very bad pain. I'm talking about spasms in the back, but I use Hatha Yoga to traction these bones. I use Hatha Yoga in a way to traction these bones. I think yoga, and whether it be Islam or whether you're doing esoterics, they don't operate when things are hunky-dory, okay? They operate when things are not fine, okay? They operate when things they operate when things are not fine, when things are not okay, when you're not eating 3 meals a day, when you are in the depths of despair and you find it within yourself to choose to rely on yourself and fix yourself and own what is happening to you. This is what I believe. And I believe it because I felt it on my own skin, because I had to take myself out of that dark place of pain. I had to take myself out of that dark place of pain, and I did. And I want to tell you, after that 6 months, I went straight and trained, and I went after that weight again. Because I'm stubborn that way, right? And the lesson that I learned in that instant, the first time I lifted that weight successfully without any pain, no injury or anything, I learned in that instant that all those years of being on my knees was doing something to me. It was doing something over a period of time. So when you look at the Muslims and they're prostrating themselves 5 times a day and so on, please understand that the accumulative effect is something that you are not able to discern by being outside of the tradition. Amir, I'm going to let you jump in here.
That was beautiful. That was brilliant. And you know that the thing that you just said, that you don't know what it's doing to you until it's needed, and then it comes into a life of its own. You suddenly see, quote unquote, the magic that you've been working towards. And it's so subtle. Again, you've done years of gradual building up, accumulation of this, for lack of a better word, power. Is power within you. Not everybody with such an injury could have done what you did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that accumulative process, it just ties in so perfectly with what we're speaking about and the video we started with. The accumulative process, that discipline, and that clarity of will, that, okay, this is uncomfortable, but that does not matter.
And I will tell you something else. I started teaching yoga. It's not only the effect on me. When I started teaching yoga, I taught yoga teachers. I still teach yoga teachers to this day. I taught yoga teachers, right? There was a lady who came in. I have many, many cases like this, who came in. She had arthritic knees, okay? She saw us perform on a yoga demonstration that we were doing, and she said, I want to do this, but I have arthritic knees. And David, I said, your arthritic knees, right, is not, and I know her personally, and she's one of the most stubborn individuals I've ever met in my life, okay? She's now she's a best friend of mine, right? I said, your arthritic knees is not stronger than you. I know you, okay? I know you. That student of mine became one of the best yoga teachers that the entire Caribbean has ever seen, okay? Surpassed me, and I'm so proud. I'm so proud of her. I cannot explain to you. I am so proud. She has surpassed me. She surpassed me in ability. She surpassed me in a lot of other things, and I am so proud of her, right? That I cannot, and I respect her to her core. Because when you see somebody come from arthritic knees, I can hardly walk into your class, to a year later, what arthritic knees are you talking about? I'm good. Okay? And then move past that. And then continue. And when you see, for those coaches and whatever, when you have a student, your teachers, you have a student that comes in that surpasses you, be very, very proud of them. Feel not one iota of jealousy, because let me explain to you, it's not about what you did. It's about what they did.
Yes.
And that's what I have to say where that is concerned. Mary, you can continue.
I think that we're reaching something very critical here as we're circling the discussion. So what is happening with each one of these events? What are you doing during each one of these events that manifests in such magic? Mm-hmm. And it came to me that, in fact, we're exercising our willpower. Every time that you sit on your knees and say, okay, to hell with the pain, my will is to do this, sit in this uncomfortable position, right? You're just adding a bit to that strength of your will, manifesting it more and more. It's accumulative. Again, that's known, irrefutable. But what is it that is being accumulated? It is that exertion of your will. And then you don't know how much strength of will you have until you need it. Then you say, okay, now it's time for the will to manifest. Suddenly, all that practice of being you, again, talking about the beginning of our show, the power that seems to be lost. What is that power that is lost? Willpower, exertion of your free will, your sovereignty. So it's an exercise in freedom of will, exercise in the true nature of our being. Slowly but surely, you begin to express it more freely. So maybe it's not an accumulation of will. The will is already there. It is slowly cracking away small pieces of that illusion that the will is not there.
Yes.
So really, during that accumulative process, you're dispelling the illusion, dispelling that false belief that the power is not there. Because again, we know it's already all here with us.
Excellent. Yes, and we want to circle back to the discussion. Spiritual branding is unnecessary. Keep it simple, okay?
Absolutely.
Keep it simple. It doesn't matter whether you're from the Takata tradition or the Usui tradition, right? The force that you are working with, the basic premise of the force that you're working with is to heal, okay? So if you get caught up in the Takata tradition or the Usui tradition, how are you different from the Jehovah's Witnesses that say, if you don't come with us, you're going to hell? And the Catholic who says, all these other religions, they have the wrong thing. Once you get caught up in this concept, and spiritual people and esoteric people are susceptible to this kind of illusion and construct. Spiritual branding is a construct, a very badly done one. I have to say so. It is so spiritual branding. No, I cannot actually understand why somebody would actually want to brand a spiritual movement or a spiritual practice. But I guess it's because there is money to be made.
Absolutely. Marketing is part of marketing. If you're doing marketing or entrepreneurship, you brand the product. So that's the influence of the Western civilization on spiritual matters. Let's capitalize on this. Let's make some dough, brother. Okay, first thing, let's make a product. What's the product? Let's call it cucumber Reiki, right? For lack of a better word. Now, let's make it a little different from Usui Reiki or Corona Reiki or whatever. Yes, let's say we do this, but the others can't do this. Well, the fact is, if you just stick with one of these, and again, Reiki is an evolution of older forms. This has always existed. These healing modalities have always been. So again, Reiki itself is a rebranding of older Taoist Qigong, for example.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what the brand is. And this is what you were speaking of. It's not just unnecessary. It's causing clutter in the environment where people just don't know what to do.
I remember back in the day when this lady, I can't remember, Essential Reiki, that was the name of the book. She wrote out all the symbols, the secret symbols that were being used. All right, and the whole Reiki community lost their collective minds. And I'm like, she's giving out the symbols. So what? I had a talk a couple of days ago with a brother from a secret society. Yeah, so let me explain to you how that talk went. I said to this brother, this year I am going to be teaching the fundamentals of Freemasonry. I'm going to be teaching the fundamentals of Martinism. I'm going to be teaching the fundamentals of the Essenes and Knights Templars. Would you like to know what his answer to me was? David, you must. No, I have to out this. His answer to me was, David, you must not cast pearls before swine. That's actually a quote from the Bible.
And it goes back to that mental infection of ego, arrogance.
So let me explain to you. I am going to do this. A lot of people are going to be probably very upset. But if I live my life by people being upset, oh, the things I wouldn't do. So the thing about it is that this is something that is going to happen. What I would like to do a lot of the time with regard to people is show them a different way, and a different way meaning that there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing secret. There's nothing that you need to be all elite about, because there's a lot of people who have this elitism thing coming. Our knowledge is all secret like. No, it's not. Whatever force you're working with, the forces are actually there already. It doesn't matter whether you call it ki, whether you call it chi, as an example, whether you call it prana, they're the same force.
Absolutely.
And your manipulation of that force or your utilization of that force doesn't make it any more unique or better than anybody else's. Okay? All right? A little child who is kneeling by her bed, saying the usual prayer, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep, is not any more different than you saying, Om Bova Swaha, Tatsavita Variniam, Bargo de Wasia Mai, Dioyona Prachodayat. It's not different. It's not different. You only think it's different because, it sounds fancier when I say it this way.
Yes.
You only think it's different. So I want to just dispel the spiritual arrogance right now. Okay? Because at the end of the day, that little girl will say that prayer every day.
Yes.
She will say that prayer every day for 11, 10, probably up until 60. You never know. How many times will you recite Gayatri Mantra? How many times? You do it once a year? You do it once a year?
That's beautiful.
Which one of you is gaining more benefit?
That's absolutely, you really hit the nail on the head now. That even when you take the time and go through all these different modalities, at the end you discover, oh my God, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing, really. So keeping it simple, again, for our esteemed audience, once you find something that works for you, please stick with it. Again, we're individual, we're different. Maybe one of these different brands, maybe Nikes are better than Adidas for you. But at the end of the day, shoes are shoes. And they have to serve a purpose, right? So whether you're wearing sandals or barefoots or boots or whatever, don't forget what the purpose of the shoe is. So it doesn't matter if you pay $10,000 for them or you pay $1 for them. They're protecting your feet from being hurt. And again, you got to take them off sometime. Walk barefoot on the ground. So where people are getting lost in the forest for the trees, they can't see the forest for the trees. There's so much nonsense. And again, it's that whole thing again with secret societies. They're highly hierarchical. So again, how would you do this? You withhold knowledge. You say, I've got something fancy. And unless you do 3 years of Lee work for me, you become my employee without pay, I'm not going to give you this secret. So again, you can see the whole thing is a mechanism of harvesting energy, servitude. Well, that very simple prayer that David mentioned, again, let's go back to that thing with aliens and language, that, okay, how is the language barrier breached? How does this happen? It's all about the intention. It's not about the words spoken. It's about that intention. That, for example, that young lady that you mentioned, 10, 11 years old, praying to Jesus, has the intention to connect to the divine. The mantra you spoke has the same intention. If it's an Aramaic, it's again with the same intention. So keep one form. If it seems to be working, keep with it. And again, with the example you gave with sitting on your knees and taking the discomfort, praying every day or keeping a spiritual practice every day is not easy, especially in the hectic lives we live. To do a certain prayer every day takes discipline. Again, with the Muslims, you see those who pray 5 times a day, that's an immensely difficult task. You have to set your time, know when the sun comes up, know when the sun goes down. And to hell with everything else. When it's time, it's time. That takes dedication. Now, even if the form and if the words are meaningless, that dedication, that exertion of willpower, that this is what I'm going to do no matter what, that's going to have an immensely powerful effect on you. Mm-hmm. So I think that the form, you have to find one form that works and then stick with it, regardless of the brand. And like shoes, when they get old, don't be afraid of throwing them away and getting a new pair if it serves your needs better.
Agreed. And for those of you who are part of my spiritual family, as soon as you find yourself thinking that one path or that little girl is less effective than you, please check your ego. Check it at the door. Check your ego. All right. And I say this with all good intent, because that quote, casting pearls before swine, this is not the first, and this is probably one of the last time I would have heard it. And I every time I hear it, it's like cringe city for me. Okay, it's cringe. It's cringy when somebody says that. So I just want to end off on this note and do a few plugs. First of all, Amir, he is going to be doing a series with me. So if you really enjoy this content, we will be posting these kinds of talks for those of you who are interested in this kind of content. We will be posting it on our media server. The links you will find in Facebook and whatever else. But to be quite honest, I have no intention of continuing reliance on Facebook by any means, shape, or form. And I have no intention of enabling technocracy. So what I am going to be doing is I am absolutely going to be posting that on a separate server where people are free to say and do whatever they want to do within the confines of non-violence, non-negativity, and the promotion of all that is positive. Everybody has their own opinions, and I do not believe in the technocracy that Facebook and YouTube have set up. So we have created our own server for this purpose. Please join our server. It's a video site, and you will find information there with the best people that we can find. We're not looking for people who are in it for the weekend. We're looking for people who, this is their life. This is what they have been doing. People like Amir, people like Rukia Khan, who has been smiling all her life. These are the kinds of people that I want to expose you to, and to expose them to you as well, right? And so what I'm going to do with regard to that is I'm going to close down the show by saying thank you so much for viewing. We really appreciate doing these broadcasts. I love Amir's company. And we love your company for those of you who are watching or the future viewers of this broadcast. Thank you so much. Amir, I'm going to let you take the last word on this.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to address our esteemed audience. Ladies and gentlemen, let's wrap this up and tie a nice, neat bow like a present. Let's round up what we've spoken about. There are many different brands out there. The purpose should be clear. Know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And again, the most important thing is knowing that all the power, all the wisdom, all the magic, all the glory that you seek already exists. Think of it as your inheritance that isn't taken from you, but it's hidden from you. The journey is to discover that inheritance, that brilliance that you are already. So similar to digging up for buried treasure, you're taking away, brushing away layers of illusion and distortion in actualizing that power that you have. And that takes discipline, like digging for gold. Mm-hmm. So have discipline, have persistence, and in whatever brand you choose to do, know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and have discipline. The cumulative effect is going to come into manifestation sometime in your life where you need it most. And I thank you for your kind attention. I bless you all. I love you all with my heart, with all my heart. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, guys, and we will see you in the next broadcast.